I'm Mark Caro, and welcome to episode 129 of Caropop. Often on Caropop, we talk with artists who are looking back on amazing careers. But this week, we talk with someone who is looking forward to one, Niko Kapetan of the band Friko. The Chicago-based Friko is, as they say, one of the hot buzz rock bands of the moment. I was hearing its song Crimson to Chrome on the XMU satellite station about a year ago, even though its debut album, Where We've Been, Where We Go From Here, didn't come out till this February. That album, released by the high-powered indie label ATO Records, has been getting raves and more widespread airplay. Pitchfork wrote, Where We've Been, Where We Go From Here isn't just a throwback. It carries the spirit forward, reaffirming that indie rock as a style and ethos can still feel like the most exciting thing a young person could be into. Kapetan's voice covers a huge musical and emotional range, delicate and fragile one moment, fierce and roaring the next. The band is just as dynamic as it shifts from loud to quiet, melancholic to joyful. The songs move from the haunting piano ballad For Ella to the syncopated supercharged Chemical to the bleak anthemic Get Numb to It. A recent packed concert at the Great Northside Club Metro served as a coming out party for the band, with a young and old crowd singing along with each of Kapetan's deeply felt songs. Friko recorded the debut album as a trio of friends from Evanston Township High School. Frontman Kapetan, drummer Bailey Minzenberger, and bassist Luke Stamos, who has since left the band. Friko now is a duo of Kapetan and Minzenberger, with other musicians augmenting the live lineup. As an Evanston native myself, I'll note that I've been hearing about Kapetan's talents for a while. My good friend Dan plays in a funk rock band Chicken Bone with Kapetan's father, Dimitri, a guitarist. Dan would tell me about this talented kid who was making music while at Haven Middle School, which I also attended, and the high school. Kapetan's high school band, the Marquis, got things started. Go on YouTube and you can check out studio and live performances of Kapetan's early standout song, Holdin' On People. Friko went further, developing its chops and growing its audiences over a few years of club performances and the release of 2 EPs. ATO signed the band last August, by which point they'd already recorded Where We've Been, Where We Go From Here. Now they've embarked on a months-long tour and will be playing Lollapalooza in Chicago's Grant Park in early August. In the wake of Friko's South by Southwest performances and his triumphant Metro appearance, Kapetan reflected on where he's been as a songwriter and musician. Why did he learn drums first, and how did that rhythmic basis affect his songwriting? How has Friko developed such a strong sense of community? Are the rock scenes out of Chicago and Evanston as supportive as they appear? How did he develop his unique sense of song structure? Is his happy place more in the studio or on stage? Has his label made suggestions about how to approach the second album? About which album does he say, you don't get any better than that? Where do they go from here? We're eager to find out. Please enjoy this Caropop conversation with Niko Kapetan. I had just been at Music Direct that afternoon, hanging out in the record room with Rob Gillis and kind of looking around. And I bought my stereo equipment from them, and I'm friends with them. And Bess installed it in our house. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And he's like, Niko works there. I'm like, really? Like, I had no idea. So I've probably seen you in the hallways, or we're in that back. I don't know if you're in that warehouse or a different one, but
no, I'm in that warehouse. I've been there for 3.5 years now. I mean, I'm more in the back where we receive. I'm not really up front where all the records are, but where people shop. But yeah, I've been there for a while now.
It's kind of a happy place for me. I just like having all these records around and audio equipment. It's just sort of, especially during the pandemic, where that's when I had the same turntable I had from high school, and I finally was like, it's time to upgrade it. I'm not going to shows. I need to do something. And then of course, I just keep having to feed it by getting more and more records. But anyway, so
it got so busy. It was so busy during when COVID was hardcore, because everybody was they're like, well, I'm stuck at home, I better upgrade the shit. And now it's slowed down a lot, but it was busy then. Yeah.
Well, that seems like it's like, if you're going to have a day job doing what you do, that seems like that would be a good one to have.
Well, especially they've been so they're actually letting me work too, in between tours this year, and we're on the road for 5 months out of the year. So yeah, they've been very good to me. Buzz is a really nice guy too.
Yeah, no, there are a bunch of nice guys there. I just like hanging out there, aside from then coming home with more records than I should. But so what was the first instrument that you learned? Because I think you were a drummer early on. What was your musical evolution in terms of learning instruments and then starting to write songs?
Yeah, so in fifth grade, I expressed interest in the drums. And so my parents got me like a starter Pearl kit for Christmas. And I played that in Opening Doors, which was the cover band in middle school and like early high school that we did. And we would literally just play block parties and an old neighborhood grill when that was around.
Right.
Um, yeah. And I did drums forever. And I really love drums. I just got to a point where I started like writing stuff and I just enjoyed writing songs more. And you just, yeah. And so I'd still play drums on like all the recordings at the beginning because I would just do everything on those. But yeah, I just slowly sneaked away. And now that we have Bailey, I don't really ever need to play the drums much.
Right. When you started writing songs, were you writing them on an instrument, or were you sort of drumming and then kind of like coming up with stuff, and then you're like, oh, you know what, I need to learn how to play guitar and piano or whatever else?
So I just like picked up a guitar at a random point because I started using GarageBand, which I eventually got Logic Pro X. But and I would just make like loops, and they were almost just like indie type beats type stuff because they're just guitar tracks with like some like shitty recorded drums. But I started writing for years. My writing process was literally just like come with a small idea and like make loops. I mean, Burn Out Beautiful, that first like demos album that I recorded in my parents' basement in Evanston, that was all like looping stuff and like and making drums and like recording drums myself, all in like Logic Pro X and stuff. Yeah, that was the core of it. Just those home DAWs are just so essential now to people my age coming up making music.
Would you come up with the whole musical bed first and then start in on, well, what's the song about, coming up with the lyrics and that sort of thing, like music first?
Yeah. I mean, back then, I don't think I was thinking too much about what it's about. It would just be like, if the words sounded right. And like, yeah, I mean, it would be so sporadic. It would be so random because like when you're a kid and you have Logic Pro X and you can do anything, any amount of tracks, any instruments, I would just toy around with it for hours and hours. And it would just be completely different every time an idea came around.
So how has that sort of evolved to this point? Do you write similarly now, or do you have a different process?
Now it's mostly I will come up with ideas on vocals and guitar, vocals and piano. I've been starting to think about getting more into the recording. We might try that with the producer for a few songs in September. Like starting from that like small idea and then in the studio with that small idea. But I've for this record, the debut and like a lot of stuff, I've really enjoyed like trying to be like an actual songwriter in like the classic sense and just like really focus on song structure and lyrics and like that holding up because then if you have that fully fleshed out as a song, then the recording process is so much more fun because then it's just like how do we hold up this as a song, not overdo it, not underdo it.
Yeah, your sense of structure is like really interesting. I was I've listened to the album a bunch of times and I've seen you. Yeah, I feel like your songwriting kind of comes at things like they're sort of like elements that are familiar and that there are songs and there are hooks and melodies and rhythms and a lot of rhythmic interplays. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that you started as a drummer because you got a lot of cool rhythmic things going on. But like something like Chemical, it builds up to this chorus, but then the chorus doesn't come back. It's just like the one chorus. And Get Numb to It also, it builds up to this like big chorus that you repeat, with a really great, sort of lyrical hook too, where like, it doesn't get better, it just gets twice as bad because you let it, so you better get numb to it. But it's only at the end of the song. And a lot of songwriters, especially if you're sort of calculating for what makes a pop song or a hit song, you would have sort of planted that a minute into the song and then you would have come back to it. But your stuff has more sort of a organic flow to it where you're not, it feels like it's coming to you instinctually, but not kind of in a calculated way. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean that comes from writing stuff I think in Logic Pro X for so long, like not starting off like how to write a classic song, because like I've never really been able to write the type of song where it's like a consistent, like where you can have the choruses in the predictable places, which like I want to try and do some more because I love a lot of songs like that. But I try to make up with that. I feel like with like, I mean, my love for like Pet Sounds, the Beach Boys, Brian Wilson is so incredible. It's just the repeated outros, and you can make up for having no choruses by just having a minute and a half long outro with a repeated hook, because that just then you leave people here and that, and they're like, they feel like they listen to three choruses, you know? It's an interesting effect.
It really wasn't until I actually watched like like a live clip of you guys doing Chemical, and I was like, they really only do that chorus once. It sort of stands out so much in my memory of that song, it's kind of the back and forth on the vocals. And then, when I was listening to the album again, I was like, oh, get numb to it also. It only, I think of it as having this chorus because you repeat it at the end, but it really is only like, it's almost a coda, even though it's also a chorus.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
is.
interesting because it does stick in your mind
Yeah.
as this, killer chorus.
Yeah, it's just part of the outro. Outro is my favorite thing.
Have you done much studying of music theory and songs and stuff like that?
I took a class in high school. I mean, I've done enough of my own studying, and just like looking into things and trying to learn how stuff works, but no like formal studying really.
What was the first song you wrote that got you excited?
I mean, the first song when I was 17, when I wrote "Hold On, People," and that's the one song that we still play today. And that was the first song that I wrote where it's like, like the friends around me, like some people at high school, ECHS were like, "Oh, I like fuck with the song." I'm like, "Oh, whoa, people actually like this one." And that was the first one with like a memorable actual chorus.
Right.
And so that was definitely, and that was the first one we started playing live, and like the first one people would know when we played that live in high school. So it's definitely that one. Yeah.
So that's Holding On People, and you were in a band then called the Marquis. So that was a different
Yeah.
band. I was on YouTube and I listened to the studio recording of that. And then there's a version of you guys doing that at Space where there's this long sax solo at the end, which is pretty cool also.
Oh, crazy. That's old too. That's funny.
That was like 2019. So like, were you opening for someone at that one or?
No. Oh, wait, no, we were playing with Bailey's band. I think we were opening for Bailey's band, Bailey Minzenberger.
Oh,
And that
nice.
was before Bailey was playing in our band. But yeah, so that's crazy. Yeah.
It seems like you guys have a really great network of bands around here. Like that Space show, it seemed like all the bands really, supported each other and you guys all knew each other. Like Free Range was in that show and Bailey was playing bass, I think. And then you had Neptune Core and Smut at Metro, and everyone seemed like they were all. It gives the impression that you're coming out of a very supportive scene, which Chicago isn't always known to have had. Like there have been certain times where in the '90s where there were a lot of bands coming up, but there was also the sense of kind of rivalry there. Like, are things nice now?
I mean, from our viewpoint in the bands we know in the scene we're in, I mean, there are 20, 30 bands that we know. All very kind people and very talented. And there's a lot of people coming up right now, too, that are very good. Like bands you mentioned, it's just a unique thing because, like, I mean, everybody kind of wants to have that scene thing. Like when I think of scenes and like thinking back in history with like cool music scenes, like Chicago in the '90s had the whole big scene that. And yeah, there is just a sense of like community within it instead of competitiveness for some reason. I don't know. I think it's just like starting with a good group of people. And then it kind of goes from, it's a lot of luck. It's just genius. It's like the zeitgeist. It's definitely, it has to do with post-COVID for sure. A lot of people think about moving during that time. Chicago's the big city with like cheapest rent out of New York, LA, and Chicago, and even like Austin or something, Nashville. So yeah, a lot of factors play into it.
Do you feel like growing up in Evanston that also kind of helped nurture your creative, ideas and stuff?
I think having my close group of friends when we played cover stuff was great. I will say with Evanston, I wish they opened an actual cool rock venue. I think Space is that, and Space is the closest thing to that. But I wish they had like an Empty Bottle type, like college down and dirty type venue, maybe one day we can help build that, but
that'd be cool.
Yeah, because I mean it's a college town, and like Space is fantastic, and I love all the people that work there. But like, there should be a space that's like really college based, and young people based. And I didn't feel like I had that growing up. Old Neighborhood Grill was honestly the spot where like we'd play all the time. And, like friends would come out from high school. And Bailey was in a lot of the ETHS school stuff. Sadly, I was not. But yeah,
Did it help, by the way, having your dad in a band?
I mean, he was always playing guitar when I was growing up, and that was kind of what, made me want to pick up a guitar. And seeing him play when I was like really young was definitely inspiring. And yeah, I mean, and him and my mom were always so supportive of me doing it. And even up to this point, when it's like the scariness of making an actual career, that they're completely supportive. Yeah.
What was the point where you thought, I want to make an actual career of that, as opposed to this is just kind of something I'm doing on the side?
I think in 2019, I went to Columbia College for 1 year and then Columbia College Chicago, and I dropped out because it just wasn't for me. And I was kind of at the point where I was like, there is nothing else that I really get anything from other than music, so I'm just going to go for this full time. So I got the job in music direct in the warehouse and just started doing music. Moved out of my parents' place, and yeah, I've been working there for 3 years since and just working on music.
Has it gone kind of how you expected it to go? I mean, it seems like, it's one of these things where on the outside, it looks like you've had this really fast rise. And on your side, it probably feels like you've just been working hard for a long time.
Yeah, it definitely because it was years of cold emails, and practices and shows with nobody there and so much time, 2 or 3 years, under the table trying to do stuff. And at times it got really frustrating. I was like, it doesn't feel like it's going to happen. But now, since the record came out, there's so many people being well, this is happening so fast. And it's yeah, I mean, it does feel like it accelerated a lot since the record came out, but it was a very slow build up for us.
Right. Well, it was interesting because at the Metro show, I started off in the balcony and I was actually sort of standing behind your parents were at a table and chatted and said hello.
Yeah.
And then at some point I went down and the thing that really struck me when I got downstairs was how many people of many different ages were singing along with the songs. Like they knew the songs, and it wasn't just from the record. It was also because they were the ones who, in that accumulation of all those shows you did, they got on board and it sort of hit critical mass at some point. And I don't know if you have a sense of when it hit critical mass, but it seemed like, oh, this is they have that thing now where people are singing along with songs from an album that just came out.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely when the record came out, was kind of that moment. It felt like, and we kind of felt that would be the case because with the singles us releasing, they are kind of all over the place if you just listen to them as singles. But you kind of need the whole record, I feel like, for this one to kind of understand where it's coming from, if people are going to understand it. But yeah, it definitely was that slow accumulation. And it was Chicago, at least, I don't know with us playing all over if people know anything from the EPs, Hold On People or not. But with Chicago, it was a very, very, very slow burn. It was truly no one, and then getting 10 or 15 people coming to 30 to 50 to 100. It was there was a very marked slow burn. And last year with Empty Bottle, we sold 200 tickets, which is great, but we didn't sell out Empty Bottle. It was a slow burn for sure.
Well, what did it feel like doing that Metro show? Because that was a big crowded show at a place where, I mean, I saw Smashing Pumpkins open for the Buzzcocks in the same spot I was watching you guys, and that was before they got big.
That was our favorite show we've ever played. Mine, no doubt. It was very cathartic, and just seeing so many familiar faces, and a lot of familiar faces from Evanston Township that I did not expect to see, which is really funny and sweet. But yeah, it was a dream come true because Metro did a really good job of documenting their shows in the 90s and stuff and 2000s. So on YouTube, you can find all the shows. So I've watched a lot of those.
So you did the Metro show, and then you went down to South by Southwest, where you're not playing for people who are singing along. You're playing for people who you're trying to introduce yourselves to. How do you approach those shows differently, and what was that experience like?
We don't really approach it any differently, luckily, because we're so used to that because it's been years of that, of trying to convince people. And we did South by last year, so we kind of knew what it's like and how cutthroat and fast it is, and you hop up on stage, you get there 5 minutes before you hop up, and you play, and then you hop off, which is a different kind of adrenaline, and it was fun. It was a good time. It was very hectic, and I'm still recovering from that because we've still been going at it since that. But yeah, South by is definitely a different thing. We did all unofficial showcases, so we actually made some money because they paid. So it was nice. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to go all the time, but it's been a while, and it seems like the unofficial stuff and the daytime stuff has kind of eclipsed the official nighttime stuff now. How many
No
shows did you
doubt.
guys do?
We did 9 shows in 6 days.
Yeah,
But
okay, that's
South
a
by
lot.
has just gone too corporate. It's just like insane. The whole thing with the army this year, it's like you're not a music fest anymore, but something else will form around that time of year, I think, for like music in Austin. But I honestly think South by is kind of, unless they completely change their ways, they're going to kill themselves
Hmm.
completely.
And you guys are doing Lala also.
Yes. Yes. Very excited for that.
Do you know when you're what day you're on, what stage you're on, any of that stuff yet?
I don't know that. Well, I think we're on the stage that's when you walk, it's the one not facing the sun. That's what I know. It's the one with the two stages across from each other, and it's the one not facing the sun. I don't know if you know the one like across the way from Perry's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
No, it makes so like on Hudson Field, but on the south field because it's got the two ones
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. On Saturday, yeah,
Oh, nice. Well, Saturday is a good thing. Are you looking forward to that?
yeah. Oh, very much so. That'll be a dream come true for my school, especially.
Do you go to Lala?
I used to go in high school. I would not probably go anymore as just a listener, but I'm very excited to go as like an artist, and be able to like get to the go backstage instead of have to go through the crowds all the time. But I had some fun times there in high school, a lot of shenanigans and yeah, good times.
What were your highlights at going to Lala?
When I was in high school, I mean, I remember I saw the drums, saw Arcade Fire, I saw Kendrick, Lamar. I mean, honestly, I had some fun times at Perry's. Just like the mosh pits and all that. What else did I see? I remember seeing the Shins, I saw the Killers. They just have so many like the huge name bands that you see from like 300, 400 feet away, which is awesome. But
Right.
it's like it's just like a big scale thing.
Is there a concert that you can think of that kind of, especially inspired you to want to do this, where you're just like, oh my God, I need to be part of that?
I was saying, I mean, when I saw Arcade Fire at Lollapalooza, a really touching one for me in high school.
What was the first big show you went to?
The Who at Allstate Arena.
Oh wow.
That was funny. I mean, that was good, but I can't gauge. I was really young and like they were already so old, but legends, We were like nosebleeds, but definitely remember it.
Is there anyone who you're like, oh, now that I'm in a rock band and we're on our way up, is there anyone you want to especially meet, or open
I
for?
was talking about this with someone last night at the show. I mean, the dreams are like they're like top dreams. I mean, Radiohead is like number one for like a band that's legendary, but also still really cool and does cool stuff. I always say the number one, probably for most people, where like I'd freeze up and just start crying on the spot would be Paul McCartney.
Mm.
And because I was talking to Terry from 93 XRT last night because she was there and because we did that pop up show at Reggie's. And she was telling me a story about she interviewed Paul McCartney in 1975 before their first Wings tour. And she was just saying how like she was like completely mystified by it. And yeah, it's such just that would just be the craziest thing. But like younger bands, I was thinking of like Geese. We've been talking to them. They seem like cool folks and make cool music. Black Country New Road, I love. I recently was able to talk to like Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse, and that was a dream come true because I mean, especially writing this record, The Lonesome Crowded West was like one of my like biggest influences for this record.
Oh,
Because it
interesting.
just he perfect that band, they like in that time period perfectly encapsulated like 20s angst. And he was just like so yeah, she's so poetic with it too.
I got that album recently. I didn't have it, and I kind of went back and got it. It's a pretty cool record. It covers a lot of ground too. It's got a lot of energy.
It's a crazy record. No other record sounds like it.
Are you still writing like while you're really, really busy and you're about to go on tour for a couple months? Do you write during those times? Or do you sort of set aside time to write when you have a little more of a break?
I mean, yeah, writing is always like something that like I will. I don't know. I just like whenever I have downtime, I tend to do it more. It's more productive, and like I've been doing that. I've been constantly thinking about it. Like especially the past few weeks, I've been doing a good amount of it because I when I think back to it, I'm like, a lot of times when I'm writing stuff, I come up with ideas and then set them aside and then keep coming up with more ideas. And then those come back and then they set aside again. Everything just slowly comes along and just like trying to like constantly work at it to slowly build that up again. Cause yeah, it's very daunting. Like, especially now since the first record got attention, like I just want the second record to just be like incredible and blow it out of the water, even though we love this first record, but yeah, just got to work hard at it, and stay down to earth, and we'll be good.
So do you have songs written for the second record?
No, I'm not a prolific songwriter. Um, we have some B-sides that'll be for this first record, but like anything, I'm not the type that'll be like, oh, let's just bring those over to the next record. Like the next record, I don't want us to be like a D'Angelo and release a record like every 6 years, but like every record, like formal record, needs to be like a statement, like a huge statement piece. Um, it's not just like we're not like King Gizzard, who I love, but we're not just going to release like 3 albums in a year and stuff. Just not the type of band that we are.
Back in like the sort of the golden era of like the 60s stuff, you had this kind of, album era, right? Even 80s. And then the CDs came around and then you had everyone making these like hour-long CDs that were, would have like 15 songs and, five of them would be like, I don't know about that. Oh, then there was like iTunes and it was all just about like what tracks you're releasing and the singles didn't even matter. I mean, like the albums didn't even matter. But now with vinyl back, it seems like more people are thinking about albums and, your album feels like an album. It doesn't feel like, oh, here's like a bunch of songs that you sort of recorded. Now you just sort of put them together. The pacing of it and the shape of it and the sequencing feels like you conceived it as one album as opposed to a bunch of songs. So is that how you approach it? Are you like an album first guy?
I mean, I appreciate that, man. The interesting thing is we didn't go into these songs and this like album thinking like we're going to record an album. It was more just like we had some new songs. Like, we had Crimson and Chrome for Ellen Cardinal, and we were recording these B-side tracks that I was talking about. And then Scott Telleried, I showed him Crimson and Chrome for Ellen Cardinal, and he was like, these songs are so much better than these. We need to work on these now and drop everything else. And luckily he was right. And then from there, more songs just kept popping up and we got lucky that everything came together and it was an album. But like, I do like to think that comes from like I grew up loving albums as a whole and always listening to those and like how classic albums work and like what makes an album classic and like even like more modern ones. Like, I mean, for me, modern day stuff comes from more like hip hop or R&B stuff, like Blonde by Frank Ocean or like, To Pimp a Butterfly, like really classic shit.
Right.
Whereas like this is a huge statement piece. And obviously those are a different scale. And like that's something that we will be striving for forever. But like, you need a more than one or two songs to like get into like a true mood and make a real like statement. So we want to like think about that more with the second record with like, because the first record was 9 songs, 36 minutes, I think. So it's like, which we wanted to have a short debut. I always loved the short debut. So many of my favorite debut albums are like under 40 minutes. But to make like a more whole statement, it needs to be longer, which is a funny thing to say, but yeah.
Right. Well, you could do the sort of the Smashing Pumpkins thing where you got Gish, which is like your indie album, and then you got Siamese Dream, which is a leap, and then all of a sudden you're doing the big double album with the unwieldy title, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. So is that the trajectory you guys are looking at?
I don't know, man. Siamese Dream, I mean, that record they fucking killed. I mean, it's easy to say. I respect them for Melancholy, but it's like, make that a 13, 14 track album, and then it's like fucking like, then it's like people can see that as like easily one of the greatest albums ever made. That's like, it's too long, man. I've never listened to that album fully through. It's just like too much.
So you're not going to go for like the double.
A lot of good
album.
songs, though.
You're not going to go for the big double album for the second Friko record.
I mean, I know definitely not for the second record. I just like I don't know how you could do that and not feel self-indulgent. I don't know. Depends.
So had you recorded all of this album before ATO signed you?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we were like finishing mixing stuff when we had like finalized the deal.
Because like the Sun Times story said you guys signed with them in August, which is not that long ago.
No, it was very recent. Because we were talking to a bunch of folks for a while, and then we ended up signing, and then we finished up a few of the mixes after we signed. And yeah, then we made the singles plan and everything.
Do they give you feedback? Do they say, hey, remix this, bring this up, or, any kind of, label advice, or were they like, hey, we're just buying what you made, and, we think this is really good?
Well, that was the thing they did. Just let us do what we wanted to do. And like now we're at a point, where it's like, now that the album's finished, like for like some like radio stuff, it's like, oh, can we get a mix with like louder vocals? I'm like, I don't have a problem with that shit. As long as the album is out there, how it is the album.
Right.
That's all I care about. If a radio mix needs to have a louder vocal, whatever. But no, they were very good with that. And it does feel like they're going to stay that way because they trusted us. And like, when we were talking to people about this record, like I did have this confidence in it, and like something that I've never really had before, where it's like, it really felt special when we were making it. And like we, even before we finish it, like I was talking this mad talk about it to all these labels when we only had the 4 songs, and 2 of them were ballads. I mean, it was Pharrell and Cardinals, like Have It. And one of the other ones that was an up-tempo one, other than Crimson Chrome, didn't even make the album because it wasn't good enough in the end. So it's like, yeah, a lot of, I was really talking it up before we even had it, and we just kind of got lucky that it came together.
Yeah, Crimson to Chrome we were hearing months ago on Sirius. There was like
it was like a year ago.
Yeah, and my wife and I were like, "Wait, there's Friko." It's a good song too. I got this one. I saw you guys at Reckless, but this is the Chicago edition, available only at Chicago indie record stores. 300 copies, tricolor vinyl. Were you involved at all in them putting out the special vinyl edition?
Yeah, I mean that was actually, one thing that I knew about, because I talked to Joe Shanahan. Ended up becoming like, over time, he knew about me making music in like when I was 17 and stuff, but he didn't feel serious about it, rightfully so, until like the past couple years when it was a real like career thing. And he was talking about how like, Smashing Pumpkins gave out like 100 free CDs to the first 100 people out there coming to the shows. We wanted to do that for the Metro show. The label wasn't too fond of it. So we just ended up doing posters. But like anything we can do, to like make, we want to be a Chicago band. And like for the city, there's something to be said for like, just like Kurt Vonnegut has that whole thing where it's like, the only thing you can truly do is like focus on your community first and then build from there. And it's like, yeah, that's the truth. And it's like, if you can like, this is not me saying we're doing that with this. Cause like, there's a lot of more philanthropic things we want to do specifically for Chicago, but like, like trying to give focus on the city we came up in.
There's some bands that just want to get out of wherever they are, and they're like, oh, we're a band of the world or whatever. But for you, it's important to be identified as a Chicago band, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, cause nobody gives a shit about a band of the world. It's like, people want identity, to a band and to a group. And like, whether that's something that they're connected to or not, they'll just like respect that and relate to it.
Are there any Chicago bands that have had a path to success that you'd sort of like to emulate?
Oh, that's a tough question. I don't know. I'd have to think on that hard before answering. I don't want to answer that because it's just like either friends or like Smashing Pumpkins, their exact path to success, don't want to have that, so that's a pretty hard question. In general though, people envy is like, like Mitski or like Sufjan, like these artists that did their own thing, that were like, they did their own thing for so long, and then it just ended up catching on to a wider audience because they just did it and grinded on it, want to make good music.
Has the label talked to you about the follow-up and thought, okay, now you guys we got some big name producer we want you to work with, we want you to go in this, LA or New York studio and do it? Or is it more like, hey, come up with whatever you're going to come up with and we trust you?
They've already kind of made it clear that they don't want to rush us, which is awesome. I still want us to stay on our toes and be like on top of it, but I think it's just like, I think they realize, like, in the history of labels rushing a second record, especially if a first record does relatively well, it never works out well, and there's no reason for it,
Right.
It's in this day and age, like, you can keep promoting different stuff and like keep making different types of media that people can enjoy, whether it be videos or like B-sides or before you make that next statement piece.
And especially when you're being introduced as a band, that first album usually has a longer rollout than if the second album. If the first album is done well, then it's sort of like, boom, people know about it right away. But you're still introducing yourselves to people, and that's why you're going on these tours and you're, it's kind of a prolonged introduction. So they're not rushing you. But have there been any talks on, hey, we want you to work with Dave Fridman? He did this great work with, Spoon and this band and that band, or is it,
Yeah.
is it more like, we're just gonna back off on all of that stuff, and when it comes time for you guys to work on a record, then we'll have those discussions.
Well, there's been some basic talks like that because we've been initiating too. We recently were able to talk to John Congleton because he was interested, and we're probably going to do some dates with him in September, just like work on some new stuff and start. But yeah, I mean, John Congleton, he did like all the St. Vincent stuff and
Oh, cool. Yeah.
some Bill Callahan, and he's incredible because that St. Vincent self-titled record when I was in high school like changed my life and like how I thought about production. And like I was like, oh, you can DI distorted guitar is like the coolest fucking sound. So that it's gonna be really cool if that works out. But even with that, we've talked about with like there's so many times where a band that did their own unique thing, like we mixed and recorded this whole record ourselves and with a couple friends. It's like if you go out and just like work with a big name producer and let that take over and just like make it all sound good and pretty and like amazing, it's just gonna backfire because you need to have the songs first and then keep that unique part of it,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's all a matter of, I mean, like, it could go either way. You could find your George Martin who brings out the best in you.
Yeah.
And, or you could find, some, or like, Queen or the Cars with Roy Thomas Baker. And you're like, yeah, he helped those guys. But then you could also find someone who's going to kind of put their imprint on you. And it's like, no, that sounds kind of time stamped. And like they're putting their trademark sound on your trademark sound, and that doesn't work. So, obviously you guys will have some sense of how comfortable it feels and whether it feels like your music, because it seems like you have a pretty good sense of what you want stuff to sound like.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do. We kind of just want to like, and we've talked to John about this some already, and like with Jack and Sky, who we worked on this record with, we want them to be involved in some way too, and like basically just realizing what we did with this record more. Now that we're like starting a new record with like we know who we are as a band. We're versus the first record, we like realized that halfway through, I think. And, like now we know who we are as a band. We know our songs and like what feels right to us, and just like enhancing that and making it sound more pristine. Like just like getting more to that point of like, my favorite, I think the greatest sounding record of all time is rock record is In Rainbows by Radiohead. It's like, you don't get any better than that. Yeah. And so like,
I love that record.
A more intense record than that, maybe, yeah, just like sonically really like perfect, but like also really live and edgy.
I loved your Arpeggi Weird Fishes cover, by the way.
Oh, thank you. We are going to get in the studio and record that. Yeah, that was very fun.
One of the keys of being a live band is like pulling out the cool cover where you're like, oh, all right, that's a good one. You got any other ones?
Dude, I mean, playing that song. Well, we did last time we played Metro. We did Life on Mars. We did the Glow Part 2 by the Microphones. We need to pull out some more though. We haven't done too many. But playing Weird Fishes was just like when we're in the middle of it, I'm like, God damn, man, this song is so fucking good. I mean, what's the type of thing where it's like we actually, me and my dad and even mom could bond. When I was like 11 when it first came out, it was like, or 10 or something. It was just like, it's just an everyone record, it's definitely Radiohead's most wide-ranging record.
I looked on your website and it looks like you have like nonstop shows from the beginning of April through beginning of June, and maybe there's more after that. What's the split of you guys opening for other bands versus headlining, and how do you approach each one?
I mean, it's going to be mostly opening this year. We're doing some fests, but like almost all of our stuff, and like it's going to be mostly just opening. And then in 2025, we're hoping to do some like headlining US tour, but we're also probably going to be hitting the whole US on an opening tour again in like September. And then Europe in October and November. It's just going to be a long, crazy year, but we asked for it and I'm excited for it. I'm very excited for it.
So who are you opening for?
In April, I think it's Willis, and then Water From Your Eyes in May, in the first half of May, and then Mind's Eye in the second half of May. And then, yeah, that's for all those tours, yeah.
So how does that get worked out? Is like the band, the headliner, do Do your people reach out to the headliner? Does the headliner reach out to you? Like, how do these sort of tours get put together?
I mean, I don't fully know the process of it, but it's through I mean, our booking agent basically will see like headliners will put out fields for like, hey, looking for openers, and then our booking agent will just like submit us as looking to be the openers, and then the headliners will choose, I think.
And what's like the particular challenge when you go on stage as an opener? What are you trying to do most of all?
But as an opener, it's definitely just like you gotta like be in the audience's face, you know, and kind of just like get them to pay attention. But like it's not like it was in the 90s, or like when my uncles used to play some guitar, who used to play music in some like smaller bands back in the day. Like they're like, oh yeah, when we were openers, like who would throw beer cans at us and like shout and like tell us to stop playing. It's like it's just not like that anymore. And it's like, yeah, people might not give a shit and talk, but like, I mean, we like our live show is very in your face. So either people are probably gonna walk out of the room or they're gonna be in it and enjoying it.
Do you like that challenge of grabbing their attention? Like, all right, you guys are gonna listen to us now.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed that. I mean, that was like for years, that's what it was. And like, it's a whole different thing.
You know, I just wish you all the success. I hope I run into you at Music Direct when you're not touring. And
yeah.
Any last thoughts on, you know, anything you're looking forward to?
Well, it just got announced, but Japan, we're playing Fuji Rock at the end of July. Japan has always been a dream to go to, and
wow,
that's just going to be crazy.
Yeah, and then you could have like the Friko at Budokan record coming out after, you know, in a few years.
Oh well, we are doing like we're doing like a deluxe Japan release on CD. The record like really blew up in Japan. It's really crazy. It's like bigger there than it is in the US. It's insane.
That's awesome.
I don't know why or how, but
well, good luck. I'll see you around Chicago again, I'm sure. And great talking to you. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Mark.
That's it for episode 129 of Caropop. Thanks so much to Niko Kapetan for taking us inside the expanding world of Friko. The band's debut album, Where We've Been, Where We Go From Here, is widely available through ATO Records. Friko currently is on tour with Willis, playing shows in Philadelphia on April 11th, Boston on April 12th, Brooklyn on April 13th, Washington, D.C. on April 14th, and a whole lot of dates to follow most nights up to a June 2nd show at the El Rey Theater with Mind's Eye in Los Angeles. Go to whoisfriko.com for more information about shows and links to buy the music. You could find Friko on Instagram at Friko4U, that's 4 and U like Prince would do it, and on Twitter at FrikoO4U. Caropop is produced by Chris Swake, whose talent is always crashing through. Now you can become a Caropop friend for a mere $24. Please contribute at caropop.com. Your support is much appreciated. I'm Mark Caro. Please follow Caropop on Twitter, X, and Instagram at Caropopcast. You can follow me as well at Mark Caro at MarkCaro. Please share this episode, subscribe, tell your friends, and tune in again next week for another Caropop conversation. Thanks.